What if I told you that the loneliest man in the city, one who could buy anything in the world, hadn't smiled on Christmas in 10 years, until a little girl with a pink hat knocked on his door one snowy night, holding a broken cookie and a note that said, "For the man who looks sad through the window?" Stay with me till the end, because what happened next melted even the coldest heart and changed 3 lives forever. The snow fell quietly over the city that Christmas Eve, painting every rooftop in a soft, forgiving white. Inside a towering glass mansion at the top of the hill, the lights were on, but the silence was unbearable. Ethan Cole sat beside the grand fireplace, staring at the flickering flames reflected in the glass of his untouched wine. Once, his home had been filled with laughter. Once, he had a wife who would bake gingerbread cookies and sing carols off-key. But that was before the accident, before he lost her and the baby they'd waited for, and now, every Christmas was a ghost. He could hear the echo of her laughter, smell the faint scent of cinnamon that never truly left the walls. He'd built an empire since then, a company that changed cities, funded dreams, but his own life had frozen in time. That he thought success could drown the loneliness. It didn't. Money couldn't buy what had been buried with her. That night, as the clock ticked closer to midnight, Ethan stood by the massive window overlooking the snowy streets. Down below, families hurried home with wrapped gifts, couples kissed under twinkling lights. And then, in that sea of joy, he saw them, 2 figures trudging through the snow. A woman holding a little girl's hand. The child wore a bright pink hat and clutched something wrapped in tissue paper. They stopped right in front of his gate. Ethan frowned. No one ever came here. Moments later, a hesitant knock echoed through his hallway. He opened the door to see the woman, her cheeks red from the cold. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir," she said softly. "We didn't mean to intrude, but my daughter insisted on giving this to the man who looked sad through the window." The girl stepped forward, smiling shyly. She held out the broken cookie. "It's Christmas," she said. "You shouldn't be alone." Ethan froze. The warmth of that simple gesture hit him harder than any gift he'd ever received. He knelt down, meeting the little girl's eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lila," she said proudly. "And this is my mommy, Grace." Grace smiled awkwardly, brushing snow from her coat. "I'm sorry if she disturbed you, Mr. Cole. We live down the hill. She saw you through the window last week and, well, she believes everyone deserves a Merry Christmas." Ethan's throat tightened. "Would you like to come in for a moment? It's freezing out there." They hesitated, but Lila's excitement won. "Can we, Mommy?" Inside, the mansion looked like something out of a movie, beautiful, but empty. Grace noticed the untouched table, the cold dinner, the lone chair. "You cooked for one?" she asked gently. He nodded. "It's a habit now." So they sat together, 3 strangers bound by circumstance. Grace shared stories about her late husband, a soldier who never came home. Ethan listened quietly, realizing how long it had been since someone spoke without wanting something from him. Lila drew little hearts on napkins and decorated his lonely table with them. For the first time in years, Ethan laughed. When they left that night, something shifted inside him. He watched them disappear into the snowy street and whispered to himself, maybe this Christmas wasn't meant to be alone. But he didn't know yet, that was only the beginning. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a strange thought. He went down the hill, following the direction Grace and Lila had gone. What he found stunned him, an old, leaking apartment building, barely standing, where Grace worked double shifts as a nurse and single mom. He learned she was behind on rent, that her car had broken down, and that she still gave away food to neighbors who had less than her. That night, Ethan did something unthinkable. He dressed casually, knocked on their door, and when Grace opened it, she gasped. "Mr. Cole? I brought dinner," he said awkwardly. "I figured, maybe it's my turn to visit." Grace hesitated, then smiled. "Come in." Lila ran up and hugged his leg. "You came back." They ate together again, this time in her small kitchen filled with warmth. Lila showed him her drawings, and Ethan saw himself sketched beside them, smiling under a Christmas tree. It made him blink fast, pretending something got in his eye. Over the weeks that followed, Ethan found excuses to see them again. He'd drop off groceries, fix the radiator, help Lila with homework. Slowly, the mansion on the hill no longer felt like home. Their tiny apartment did. Grace began to see the man behind the name, the lonely soul who hid behind glass walls. She taught him that love wasn't measured in grand gestures, but in the little moments. And Ethan found himself falling, for the first time since his wife's death, not into sorrow, but hope. Then one evening, Lila whispered something that shattered and healed him all at once. "Mr. Cole," she said, holding his hand, "if Santa ever asks, I'll tell him you're my Christmas miracle." He couldn't speak. He just hugged her, tears falling freely. That Christmas, the mansion didn't stay empty. Grace and Lila moved in, not as guests, but as family. The laughter returned. The fireplace roared again. And Ethan realized that sometimes, love doesn't knock once, it keeps knocking until you open the door. So if you ever feel alone this Christmas, remember this story. Even the loneliest hearts can be found again, sometimes by the smallest hands, and maybe, just maybe, your miracle is already on its way out. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe, because every click helps share a message the world needs right now, that kindness still exists, and miracles happen when you least expect them. A photorealistic cinematic winter night scene outside a modern glass mansion on a snowy hill. A tall man in his late 30s with short dark hair, wearing a gray sweater and black slacks, stands at the open door, warm light spilling behind him. Facing him is a woman in her early 30s with long brown hair and a wool coat and scarf, holding her daughter's hand, a 6-year-old girl in a pink hat and red mittens offering a broken cookie. Snow is gently falling, footprints in the snow leading up to the door, creating a soft, emotional glow. No text, no arrows.